As 30-year-old fathers with careers, wives, and children, making a twisted horror movie about a man in a tutu sounded embarrassing to say the least. But that's exactly what me and my old high school buddies did. We made a horror movie. But was this horror movie a huge waste of time and thousands of dollars, or did it actually pay off? Join us as we chat around the fire about this small little script from a little town in South Carolina that became something scarier and bigger than we ever imagined. And by the way, guys, be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell to get notified of our next short horror film coming out in 2023.
So let's talk just chill conversation about the pre-production process. This was technically my second film, but it was my first like real big film, because the first one, Andre and I did a film, and it was just me and him, and we didn't really know what we were doing. A very small film called The Man in the Cradle, which you were in a diaper in that one as well.
I'm seeing a theme.
I just really want Andre to take his clothes off. But we did that one, but this was our first big one. And by big one I mean it was expensive. It was about $16,000, and it was a big risk. And I think that we didn't know if it was going to do well. And right now we're sitting it's in 20 festivals. It's won 9 festivals.
Yeah.
So I gotta say, personally, I was really, really, really nervous about the whole thing. Even though maybe I didn't come across that way, I was like super duper nervous. And so my time was spent just being a control freak behind the scenes. And so I'll just start with what I did in pre-production and then pass it off to you, Josh.
Yeah.
What I did in the pre-production was just had the idea, and the idea was, it was basically, the impetus was my brother. My brother has OCD, and he's fine with people knowing because he's made YouTube videos about it. So my brother has OCD, and one of the things that he would do when it was a real problem is he would tap the lock to the door before bed 7 times. And I said, why would you have to do that before bed? Tap it 7 times. And he said he has no idea why, but it was his compulsion. And I said, what would happen if you didn't? He said he was scared something bad would happen to his family. And that was where I was like, okay, that's a horror film right there. What happens if you don't lock the door? In his case, tap the lock. So wrote the screenplay really quickly. I have no idea how to write screenplays. And that's something I'm learning, is we're in an era where like, you don't have to know how to do things to make a great movie. You can just, you do, but like, that's why I hired you. But in my case, to direct, I was talking to a director who's a friend of mine. A director, his name is Michael Polish. And he said, you can direct a film and not know anything about it. As long as you have a good DP and a good cast,
yeah,
you're totally fine. So I wrote a screenplay not knowing how to do it right. If somebody looked at the screenplay, they probably would think this is like crap. So I wrote the screenplay and then did a bunch of sketches, just drew them out. Looks like crap, but it was all in my head because I was just scared. Like, I need to make sure I know exactly what I'm doing here. Because I don't want to walk on that set. We had 2 days to film this thing. I didn't want to walk on that set and not know what I was doing. So I wanted to be able to basically walk in there and do exactly what I had like visualized I would do. Everything that was written down, I knew exactly what I wanted. And that was like 2 months of planning. And then the majority of my time after that was just going through Etsy and buying hamburger phones.
Finding epic props.
And drilling holes in cat statues to make that cat bait for Andre. And that was, like a lot of Etsy. So we spent about $2,000 on just props from Etsy.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was where my time was spent. When it comes to pre-production, Josh, though, what did you have to do to prepare for this?
I think, starting out, my background is like more in documentary work, more documentary filmmaking. So, I'm used to like the environment that I'm used to filming in is, sitting with people, interviewing them, but then also like a lot of run and gun filmmaking, like making quick decisions, quick creative decisions, you know, when I'm out on location. Maybe I'm somewhere that I've never seen before, and, you know, I have to capture things and like make it look great in order to put together like a compelling story. So going into this was a little bit different. I think I was excited about the opportunity. I was excited that you asked me to be a part of it. And having worked with Thomas like on other things, you know, with, you know, game development and in your school, your online school and everything, I just knew that like working with Thomas was going to be a success no matter like what we were making.
Are you just saying that?
No, I'm not saying that. I mean that. I mean, like, Thomas is like just one of the more creative people that like, I guess I would say that I just like trust. I just know that like working with him on things is going to be like, it's just going to turn out great, and it's going to be meaningful.
Yeah.
And it's going to be like specific and like well done. And generally I'm a perfectionist. I'm a person that likes to do things really well. And if you've worked with Thomas at all, you know that his eye is like, you just are very specific in like what you want. So I kind of admired that about you. And so going into the film, like, I don't know that I was nervous. I think I was more excited about like getting to do something new, flex some new muscles in like shooting a short film. But I just trusted, I think I trusted you mostly that like, this is gonna be great, because Thomas doesn't like put his energy towards things usually that are gonna like crumble. So.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
It means a lot to me. You're handling that smoke really well.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm in the smoke. It looks like I'm tearing up talking about Thomas Brush, which I don't know.
No, you're not emotional. You're just struggling through
I'm
the
not
smoke.
a person to cry, but I'm crying right now.
Was there a lot of technical preparation, or is that just that's your job, right? So you just know.
Yeah,
what
I
you
think
need?
you know we shot the film in one location in a house that was it was perfect. I think from when we walked in that first time, just to kind of peek at it and see the space and what we were working with. I think walking in there, it just felt like we don't have to do a lot to get this house to look right for the film. I mean, it was kind of as is, you know, it was great. And, you know, you could share more about it because it's the house you grew up in.
Yeah, and a little bit of background. Andre and I are best friends, and we've lived we're in South Carolina right now. We've lived here our whole lives. Can't get out for some reason, and that house that we shot at was your childhood home. And we would spend the night there. I would spend the night there probably once a week.
Yeah, dude.
And it was no offense, it was just a really creepy house.
I think you made me scared of that. That hallway, I'm like scared of that hallway because
I know. That hallway was why I wanted to shoot there, and the coloring and it's just an old house. It's a beautiful house.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful house, and it's old. I think it's what, 50s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
When it's clean, it's beautiful.
Was there anything surprising about the pre-production, Josh?
I think you know, going into it, like you wanted to shoot it in like low light. Like you wanted to shoot the film pretty much like just with the light that we had available. And we knew we were going to be shooting a lot of night scenes and a lot of, you know, just after the sun had gone down. And so, you know, from that perspective going into it, you know, I wanted to make sure that like everything looked great, but I also wanted to accomplish like the feeling that we were going for, which was like just dark and mysterious and, you know, what is happening in this house to Elliot overnight.
Yeah.
And so I think there was some times where I had to convince you a little bit to actually bring in some light. And like, you know, without any light, it's hard for the camera to see. You know, our eyes can see a lot more than the camera can.
Yeah.
So I think, but that also ended up being a fun part of it is, you know, the timing of certain shots. You know, we had to nail the timing in order to get the lighting right. And, you know, looking back on it, I think there's probably aspects that we could have changed or like improved.
Could probably throw in some unnatural light that looks natural.
Yes, right.
And you and I have been doing some research for the next short film.
Right.
Didn't we have to rent a lens or something?
We did, yeah, we did.
What was that lens that we had to rent?
I mean, we just rented, I mean, we shot the whole thing on just two lenses. We shot on a 50, which like went down to like f1.4, And then, so that's a super fast lens that can shoot in low light. And then we shot all those like overhead shots pretty much. And some of the walking through the house shots with like a 20 millimeter.
Yeah.
That stopped down to like f1.8,
Yeah.
which we weren't always shooting that low, but like we needed some fast lenses in order to be able to shoot in that environment where we just didn't have a big crew of people setting up lights and moving things around. It was like limited in that way. But I think that's one of the things I liked about it, was that it was like a challenge. There was less people involved, but I mean, look at what we got out of it. I mean, it doesn't look like there was 2 or 3 people working behind the camera.
No.
Yeah.
It almost feels slightly, well, I feel like it's definitely got the Ari Aster Hereditary vibe, which we all got together and watched Hereditary.
Yeah.
Hereditary was a huge inspiration for me. The goal was for it to feel very real, because I feel like the more real it feels, the more unnatural those unnatural moments feel, like that contrast. And so that's why I wanted the night shots to just feel like if you were just to walk into that house, that's how it would look. You know? But Andre, what was it like for you with pre-production? Because, you know, your background is you're a school teacher.
Yep.
And so acting, it's so funny because when I was thinking who would play this well, I was like, Andre's the guy. And so many people have said, this guy looks like he's like for real. and when I tell people, I go, that's because that's Andre's predisposition.
Yeah.
Like, so what was that like preparing for that
I don't
weird
know, dude.
role?
I mean, like, I think I was just, I didn't know how to prepare, because it was my first time ever doing a short film. You know, I did that one with you that was like a minute and a half.
All you did was crawl around.
Yeah, I just crawled around and like, just wearing a man diaper. So it was like totally different.
Yeah.
And so I was just nervous. I was scared I was gonna let you down because you're my best friend. I was like, I have no experience. And so I just practiced my lines, and then all the lines pretty much changed, you know. It all kind of just got shifted. But I think having you be clear on your vision and clear on what you wanted, and then being direct during the directing helped me, because I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you knew what you wanted helped me in the midst of it. But I mean, I was nervous. I was just scared.
Yeah.
Honestly, I felt
Really?
a lot of nerves, and I don't get nervous too easily, but I was just nervous that I was gonna fail, that I wasn't gonna do a good job.
Well, I think that's the unspoken truth. Maybe not for you, Josh, because this is your job, but like the unspoken truth for me and Andre is deep down, like I walked in there I wanted to dress like a director because I needed to convince myself that I could do it. So I wore like a poof jacket and a hat, because that's what directors wear.
And you had your headphones on.
I had my headphones on, and I just walked into that room, and I remember I was chewing nicotine gum, and Andre was like, why are you doing that? Because I didn't used to do that. Now I do it all the time because of that. And I was like, I need to calm my nerves, and because I was just nervous, you know. And it was a lot of money to drop into a short film.
I didn't realize you dropped that much money.
It just built up.
Yeah.
And for the record, we haven't made any money off this except for like $700. So it's not like it was a money thing.
Yeah.
But that brings me to the production side, because part of the production, and I guess we could start with you, Andre, was I wanted you to suffer the whole time. I wanted you to feel uncomfortable, because Elliot is a very uncomfortable character. He's miserable the whole time. He's drunk, he's on pills, he's throwing up, he's crying all the time.
Yeah.
So what were some of the things that you remember that we did to get you into that uncomfortable place?
Yeah, I remember the first thing you told me to do was just go run outside for a long time to act like I was sweating.
No, I remember I said,
so cold outside.
I said, Andre, go for a mile run. And you were like, huh. And I was like, no, I want you to go for a mile run. And you're like, what? And so you ended up doing jumping jacks for like 10 minutes or something.
Well, it was just so funny because, like, you know, in all the scenes I look like I'm sweating, but the whole time I was so cold.
Were you really?
Yeah, it was like 60 degrees in the house.
Yeah,
It was so cold.
Oh, we shot in November, didn't we?
Yeah,
no
it was
heat.
November.
I mean,
There was
no
no heat.
heat.
We couldn't have it running, and so I was just freezing the whole time. Then you spray me with water, making it even cold.
Peppermint oil.
But yeah, the peppermint oil. I mean, like,
What did we do
my
with the peppermint oil?
You know, like every scene, putting peppermint oil on beneath my eyes was just like.
Oh, the result was magic.
Yeah,
though.
it's perfect.
I mean,
I think it helped me just be miserable,
Yeah.
which helped me be in character. And I think for me, just trying to like visualize moments where I've just been tormented, you know, because we've all been tormented, we've all been miserable,
Yeah.
and just trying to remember those times where I've been miserable and I've wanted to hit myself or, you know, be just broken and miserable. And so I think that helped, just having past experiences where I wasn't happy, you know?
It was crazy how I think everybody that I've talked to thinks that you're an actor, or like you are an actor now.
Yeah.
But everyone I've talked to is like, who is this guy? And I'm like, he's just a guy with peppermint oil in his eyes. No, but like anytime we needed you to do something, you were just like, you'd like shift into position.
Yeah,
And I was really impressed with that. The ones that really stuck out to me were when we were at the door. For some reason, when you're at the door looking at your daughter on the photo, we had to take so many of those shots, and you just shift. Your face said so many things, and so you did a great job with that.
Thanks, man.
And Josh, you did the same thing.
Yeah.
You just shift into like whatever change, because something that I do a lot with, I make video games, as that's my job. I own a video game studio. I'm always changing stuff. And my team, they just, at this point, they're like, one of my team members asked me last week, he was like, so I don't know if you might know this, but I think you might have ADHD. And I was like, no, I definitely do. And so you adapted that really well too, Josh, with the production side of things.
Yeah.
Can you sort of let everybody know the technical side of like what had to be done on those 2 days to get everything set up? Because you were doing the lights and the cameras and all that. So what was that like? What was
Yeah.
the specifics of that?
It was definitely it was hectic at times. I think I don't think like outwardly it felt like hectic in the room, because I felt like everyone that was there, I mean, we liked each other.
Well, how many people were there? I can't remember.
I mean, I think a total of 6 people, but I don't know if we even had. I don't know that your mom.
My mom was the therapist.
Yeah.
I don't know that she was there the same time Matt was.
No, she wasn't.
Matt
Being Mr. Tutu's the double.
The double,
Mr.
yeah.
Tutu's double.
and he was
so,
walking around drinking whiskey the whole time in a tutu.
Yeah,
Breaking his nails off.
Yeah, breaking his nails,
I mean,
every nail.
The amount of
Yeah.
times. Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like in between scenes, like, I mean, I'm running around, switching lenses, changing camera rigs,
Dude, you're working the
setting
whole
up
time.
lights.
I know.
I mean, I don't think I
felt
quite-
so bad. He was like running around, like he was like lifting couches.
You never took a break.
I don't think I realized like between scenes. I mean, when you're shooting something in 2 days, I mean, we were busting it for the times that we were there, and so in between scenes, you know, Andre's, you know, you were sitting there helping Matt with his nails at least like 12 different times. Like, I mean, I don't know how many photos we had of you just sitting there. Like, I mean, you got really good with the faux nails. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely like busy, but I don't know. There was kind of an adrenaline rush, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, just kind of
Yeah.
because I felt like we were feeding off of like, oh man, dude, the last shots in that last scene, that was just great. Or, you know, Andre just delivered on that last, like,
Just
that
screaming.
we just felt it, you know? And so I felt like moving to the next scene, like, I mean, I was having to like kind of reshift, like, okay, now we're in the bedroom.
Yeah.
We need to bring in some kind of light source. We're wanting to get, you know, we set up in 2 different scenes, we had like a top-down camera to just get this kind of just different perspective of like the room.
Yeah.
One being over the bed, and then one over like the therapist session.
Yeah.
And so some of those were like technical to set up and maybe took some time, but yeah, I just felt like in between there was just kind of that adrenaline that was just pushing us into the next part. And
for the filmmakers who are watching, what was your gear?
We shot everything on an A7S III, which is like a Sony mirrorless camera. We used 2 lenses. Two primes. We used a 50. It was a Zeiss 50 millimeter f1.4, and then we used the Sony G 20 millimeter f1.8, which we used that wide lens for all those top-down shots, and then we used it for all the gimbal work.
Yeah.
We were kind of moving through the house to kind of get kind of a wider perspective.
Right.
But everything was shot pretty much handheld, other than, you know, there was a couple of lockdown shots with a tripod, but, you know, there was plenty of like just handheld. You know, we didn't have anybody there pulling focus, so, you know, I was holding the camera and pulling focus, and I don't know, I was really, I mean, looking at a lot of those shots, I mean, I'm like really proud of like what it looks like.
Yeah, dude, you did great.
I think it turned out.
It was so funny when I showed my friends at work the preview, they were just like, they were so like surprised, because they're like, man, I thought it was gonna be like on someone's iPhone.
No, it
Like,
looks
dude, that's
legit.
legit.
It looks like an
legit.
A24
Yeah,
movie.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, and I mean, Thomas, you did the editing for the whole thing.
That was
and
a
the
pain.
color grading, so.
Yeah, we'll get into that. That was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Some of the shots that really stuck out to me, that I wanted to sort of break down were,
Yeah.
I loved the overhead shots. And I personally don't know how to do that. I thought we'd have to like tape the camera to the ceiling. You know, I have no idea how to do it. But those were just basically.
It was a C-stand, like we had a
Yeah.
C-stand, like locked down with sandbags, and I bought like an extra extension arm. So it was like, because to get it out of the shot and like over the room, we didn't have like I mean, they make bigger stands than what I had, but we didn't have room for that. So
Yeah.
it was basically like an extension arm, and then I added another extension arm, and then we put the camera with the monitor on it. And you know, like when I was standing down there on the ground, like seeing the whole camera suspended above the room, it was like, please don't fail. Please don't like.
It's like $5,000 a gear.
I don't want the $100 stand to break right now, because
Yeah.
we'd be out like, you know, $4,500.
Well, you know,
But
the film looks great.
yeah.
But I mean, most people who make movies know this. Behind the camera, it's a wreck.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
We moved so much furniture around. I remember us, like the crew was just crawling over stuff in the house.
Oh yeah.
We had a ton of bins of stuff, like just props. And the whole time we shot, it was a rush to we wanted to hit a certain amount of scenes by like 7 p.m. To get that one shot. So before we get into that shot, and it's the shot where Andre's at the door, and it's like basically looks like pitch black.
Yeah.
Just so everyone's aware, we had a fog machine running the whole time, and that's what made everything look so atmospheric and dingy. So yeah, the house was a mess. We had a fog machine running all the time. It was coating the walls in like oil. I was paranoid because I was like, your parents are gonna be like, why are the walls wet? But yeah, so it was a big rush to get to that scene, because I wanted to shoot it exactly at, I think it was before daylight savings, so it was like 7:30
Yeah.
p.m.
Like, yeah, it might have even been a little earlier than that, but.
Yeah, and so that shot where Andre's at the door and it's just sort of a tracking shot. That was my favorite shot by far. What was the setup for that?
Well, I think what I loved about that shot, I mean, that came together on like our test day. You know, I don't know, sometime maybe a month prior to shooting, like we showed up at the house, and we just wanted to kind of test some shots just to like see how the lighting was gonna be changing, and you know,
Yeah.
Thomas, you wanted to like make sure like things were just had the feel, you know, we just kind of wanted to try some things out. And so I think we were kind of running that, we had that shot set up, and then I was on a gimbal, I had the camera, you know, just on like a steady cam, and you know, Andre walks into the room, and then we knew we needed to get him to the kitchen. And I was just like, well, what if we just do like a really quick whip pan and just follow him, and it'll almost be kind of startling.
Yeah,
Which I
it
feel
was.
like from the kind of the beginning stages of this film, you said like I want to have some shots that just like, not that they're not traditional, but just stuff that just catches you.
Yeah.
Like that's just not what you see in every film. Not like traditional angles and traditional movements. And I think we definitely accomplished that with that shot.
Yeah.
It was just that like you kind of felt like it was this slow moving kind of steady thing. Elliot's checking the door, and then like he kind of abruptly walks just right past camera.
Yeah.
You know, and because we kind of had to clear out that part of the house, but we just like quickly kind of followed him all the way into the kitchen, which is obviously the first time that we see Mr. Tutu run across the door.
We shot that shot we did about
15 times. I think it was like 12 or 15. I mean, because we started doing it before the light was right, because we're like, let's practice it, make sure we've got it. Then the light was right.
Yeah.
We kept going. I think we ran it like at least 3 times past where the light was optimal, but just because like we wanted to know that we had the right take, because that was the most like time specific shot.
That was the most insecure I felt during the whole shoot. And the reason was because, Andre, we had you working pretty hard, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth in your underwear. And then next to me was my good friend and your good friend, Matt, who's in a tutu and he's covered in paint. And he's like, this isn't his job, he's an engineer. And he's sitting next to me and he's just sitting quietly with the mask on in a tutu. And I'm like, okay, go, 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 go. And he like runs across the hall in that shot. Yeah. And it was just such a like, this is the thing about, I think, filmmaking or any craft. Just because you feel cringy while you're making it doesn't mean it's gonna turn out cringy.
Right.
Yeah.
In fact, you're gonna have to power through the cringe to get something great. Mm-hmm. I mean, even preparing this conversation we had to put our kids to bed, come out to my forest, my land here. It's like, what are we doing? You know, but you got to have a vision of, you got to see what you want and be okay with the cringe factor.
Mm-hmm. How did you feel during the production, like during all the filming, us being up late, all the stuff we had to do, your mom having to do like 100 takes?
Just embarrassed, you know, like, cause like you and I, we made films when we were kids.
Yeah.
And like, and you had mentioned, Josh, like, before we were shooting this is something we would do as teenagers, sit around the fire and talk about making a movie, you know? And so there's this sense of like, I'm 32 years old, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Why are we shooting a horror film? Why are we spending all this money on this horror film? Why are we enlisting people who have never done this before? So it was, for me, there was a big sense of insecurity of like, do I need to grow up? Mm-hmm. You know? And you know, most people in my life, they don't care about horror movies. And for some reason, everyone was willing to do it all though. And I think that was really kind. It was like everyone was willing to pat me on the back and say, okay, we'll make your little horror movie.
You got your mom in it. So
I got my mom in it.
The fact that your mom was in it, that says something about family love.
Yeah,
Was it weird directing your mom?
Yeah, and that was the hardest scene to do.
Yeah.
Because
that's where we started.
It has nothing to do with Mom. Mom, I love you. It has nothing to do with her. It's just because I've never directed a dialogue sequence ever. I'm a post-production guy. Mm-hmm. So that means like, you know, editing, I can make something look good in post, but while I'm there, it was like, I'm like sitting there like trying to act confident, like, come on, Mom, like, talk to the camera like this. And then I'm like, wait, you're talking to the wrong camera. Don't talk to that camera. Talk to that camera. And then Josh is just sitting there quietly, like holding his mouth, because I think you knew, like, you've done this before a little bit more than me, and I think you were being respectful. Yeah, so it was like, I didn't know what I was doing.
But you still knew, what I was impressed with, you still knew the sound, the tone, the rhythm that you wanted her to sound like. And
it's not true though. It's not true though, because it was all a show.
Because you fixed it in post, for sure.
All of that dialogue was re-recorded.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that. Yeah. The last thing I want to talk about with post-production is when Andre, you did so good. The scene where you're screaming and getting covered in blood. So Matt's the double, and he's crawling across the floor, And that shot was another cringe sequence where I was like, Matt, who's like, this is not his job. I'm like, crawl across the floor in a tutu. And he's like, okay. And then I'm like, jump and mount Andre in a tutu. And Andre's in his whitey tighties. So it was just such a weird feeling. But man, did it turn out. That sequence, when we showed it at a festival, that sequence where Matt crawls across the floor. Was
That's where you got the reaction.
we got the reaction. It was everyone. Some girl behind us was like, "Oh hell no!" And then Tutu cuts off your hands. Andre, what was that sequence like for you? Because we had one take.
Yeah.
We got to cover that bed with blood once.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was just like, man, I hope I don't mess this up. You know, just, I don't know, dude. It's just, I think we practiced it before without the blood, and yeah, I think I just tried to shoot for the best, and I'm glad it turned out.
Yeah.
And I think once again, like, your directing of like, hey, you need to pause here, yell here, was just helpful to think about in the midst of it, and I think that's what made it better.
Oh, the pause.
Yeah, like the pause of like.
I remember that.
And then the blood gets spurted on my face.
The first time, and boom, yep.
Yeah, and so it's like that shock factor. And like I would have never have thought of that. So just the fact that you're thinking about all these details helps me because I don't know what I'm doing. You know? So.
Yeah, and that sequence, this is the thing, is we were recording audio the entire time. All of the audio was, it was like clipping or peaking or something.
Yeah, no.
We didn't even.
The audio is not being monitored or not correctly to a certain degree, so we didn't realize that. But it actually kind of worked.
That was the one scene though we were able to use the audio. And I used it from the camera.
Oh, you did use the audio?
Yeah.
It was the camera's audio where you screamed.
So it was just so loud.
I used that one.
It picked it up.
Yeah, no. Well, it was definitely loud enough.
I was wondering because I was like, did you scream for that or?
No.
Okay.
No, that was definitely you.
Okay.
Sure.
I thought it sounded like me, but I was like, you did so good on the other side.
There was.
No, I can't forget that scene. That was definitely your scream. For sure.
So once we got the blood sprayed on you, I was like, okay, that turned out great. And then I was thinking, I think I just ruined your parents' bed.
Oh yeah.
And so you got up, you were just covered in blood, and you got up slowly. And I remember saying, be careful, because the blood was like dripping, about to drip onto the carpet.
Yeah.
And so we got all the sheets up, and we had just put blood all over their comforters.
Yeah.
And I went out and bought them new comforters the next day. But
that was like 3 a.m.
was it really?
It was so
like
late.
such a
We were the
blur.
only 3 people left.
Everybody else just couldn't take it anymore, I guess.
Well, that does bring me to the final day, which is, Andre, I remember you coming the second day. And that was when we shot at the dinner table, and then Tutu knocks at the window.
Yeah.
And you came in and you said, man, I just don't want to be here. I think you were tired or
I was
something.
so tired. I loved the whole night before was great. I think only getting like 5 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep. I was just like, my neck hurt so.
Wait, why?
Because I had to do that weird neck, like bend my neck and like straighten
When you were
out
laying in the bed?
Dude, it hurt so bad. Like just thinking about it makes my neck hurt. But I remember just waking up the next morning like, I feel like I was like my neck, like I just couldn't move it. And so I did not want to do anything.
I was tired too.
Yeah.
I don't know how these filmmakers do it. They're on these sets
I
for
don't
like
either,
6
dude.
months straight.
It makes me really like, only doing it for 2 days, it makes me really respect actors who do it full time because it's like, they're going through a lot. And then like the whole film crew, like I would just respect everyone because everyone's just doing stuff all the time.
I know.
And it's a lot.
There's also a lot of sitting around for some people.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, for me, I sat around way more than Josh.
Yeah.
So, like Josh, I don't think ever got to sit.
No, you didn't. You're sitting here like, shut up. That is not. I did not sit down once.
Yeah, and you're like, you're trying to figure out, you're working with Josh all the time.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And so, I got to
fast-paced.
sit around in a robe for a little bit, which is nice.
Yeah. Well, that brings me to post-production. So we finished up production. Post-production took about 4 months.
Yeah.
Did y'all do anything for post-production, or was it just me?
It was just you.
I think we just sat back, drank beer, and waited for you to send us a preview.
I mean, there was that photo shoot, but I don't know if that has anything to do with post-production.
Oh, no, it does.
We came back for another evening to just like shoot the fishbowl drone shot.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
That was like the only other thing we came back for. But
Yeah. So post-production was it was just 4 months of editing, just off and on. Because, like I said, most of the audio didn't even work.
Yeah.
It was crap. So all of it's ADR. Used freesound.org for most of the sounds. I also used artlist.io for a lot of the sounds. That's a subscription where you can just get all these cool sound effects. So every footstep I had to put in the creaking of the wood. You're voice acting, you're busy, you're a teacher, so I just did all of it myself.
Yeah.
So
Great.
half of the voice is me.
Yeah.
And my mom had to come over, and I said, Mom, we got to redo the audio. I'm sorry. And she was like, did I do a bad job? I'm like, no, you did great. We just need to do it again.
Why didn't the audio work? Like, what happened?
That one was okay. That audio was correct.
That was
It's
okay. Just you didn't get the right
right.
one.
It still didn't
Yeah.
sound right, yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
I knew you didn't get through the whole...
Yeah. So I gave her like 3 glasses of whiskey. And she was up in my studio, and she was like, okay, let's do this.
What's his name?
Yeah, Mr. Tutu. Yeah, so we did all of that. So all of that is dubbed over for post-production.
Which looked, I mean, it sounded great.
Oh yeah, no,
Yep.
the sound is awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then submitted it to about 100 festivals. So the secret is shotgun approach. It's like if you want to win some festivals, just be willing to pay $1,500. Which I don't know if I'd do it again, but it was $1,500.
Did you have to pay to submit?
It's like $50 a pop, or maybe
No
$20
way.
a pop.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I guess it's worth it. I mean, it's cool to have award laurels and stuff, but I think what it really helps is it's kind of like a ladder climb. You
Yeah.
grab one rung, which is a small film festival, and you can use that one to propel yourself to the next festival.
Did you have to have any credentials for any of them? Or was it just like they just accepted, like, would they just accept anything?
No.
Okay.
Well, it depends
Probably
on
has
what
to- it probably
you're
has
in
to meet-
Greenville, they'll accept anything.
Yeah, but you have to like maybe meet a certain criteria or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I
the
have no
biggest one
idea.
we got in was Nashville Film Festival, and also Holly Shorts in Hollywood.
Okay.
So that was cool. But yeah, so that was post-production. A lot of editing, a lot of color grading, adding sound effects to every little thing, hiring a musician to do the music.
I'm surprised you didn't do it yourself.
I
Because you can do music.
I can do it. I just didn't want to.
Okay.
There's a lot of work.
Yeah, well, I figured, but like after
Yeah.
when I heard that you had hired somebody else, I was like, I just thought you had done it because I know you did the music for pretty like all the video games you've created,
Yeah.
all the other stuff you've done. So
No, some random guy reached out to me. His name is Chris Palazos, and he wanted to do soundtracks for my games. And then I said, can you make a Hereditary type soundtrack?
Yeah.
I just need like,
A lot of droning.
and he was like, let's do it. And so he's really good at like mimicking other soundtracks and
Yeah.
creating his own style, obviously, but he's really good at figuring out what works for something
yeah.
like Hereditary. So he replicated that sound for me, which was
Yeah.
just awesome.
Oh yeah, perfect.
And so, one final question about post-production. For you, Andre, we got to see it on a big screen in Greenville.
Yeah.
Greenville's where we live, so we were at the Greenville Film Festival, and we got to see it in a movie theater at a film festival. What did you think?
I thought it was awesome. I mean, compared to the other films, it was like, I just didn't expect it to be so much better. I mean, obviously, like I saw it at when you did the viewing at your house. I mean, when you did the viewing at your house, the first time I saw it full, I wanted to cry. Like, it was so good. It was so well put together. I was so impressed that I almost cried. Not because of me or anything like that, but just because of how well it was put together. Just how professional it looked, just from the filming side of everything. It just was really good. And then seeing it on the big screen and seeing it compared to other short films, I was like, shoot, like you did a really good job. I'm really impressed.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense. Like when you talk about us winning awards, I was like, how did
You got Best Actor.
I know. I was like, I mean, it was just.
The peppermint oil's the secret.
Yeah, dude, it's the peppermint oil, and you just making me look good, and you tell me what to do, and I don't know. It was so much better than I expected, and the way you edited it was just surprising and impressive. I was very, very impressed, and so
Cool.
it was good. Yeah.
Well, Josh, do you want to share the plans for what we want to do?
Well, we want to make more, for sure.
Gotta make some more.
Yeah, no, I think what, like for myself, like after making the unlocking, which was, I mean, we filmed it about a year ago, like almost to today. I think when I left like the set and, you know, we've waited during post-production, we've seen it, we've, you know, shared it with some people, but it's not really even out. Maybe we don't want to say that, but I think
What?
that is not even out.
What's not out yet?
Well, I mean, I think by the time they're seeing this,
It's out.
It's
It's
out.
on alter. It's on alter.
It's out. Yeah. But I think it just like definitely left me like just wanting more. Definitely to just like make more things.
That's weird
like
to me
this.
because do you like horror movies?
I actually kind of guilty pleasure. I do like not like my wife will not watch any of this kind of
Except
stuff.
for ours. She was
did
nice enough to watch
she
it.
did watch this. I mean, when you had already sent the preview like to watch it before we went to your house and stuff, like
No, she watched it?
she didn't watch it. No.
Oh.
She didn't watch it. And I told her, I was like, babe, you probably don't want to watch
My
this.
wife's not. Jenna hasn't seen it yet.
Is she
Yeah.
gonna?
I think she is when it
Yeah.
releases.
Yeah.
But like, she's like, I just want to see you like in your normal. Like, I don't want to see you in your weird faces and your underwear and like. Anyways.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not like a horror like. I'm not like geeking out and only watching horror, you know. Like, but I mean, I do enjoy, you know, psychological thriller things that are a little messy and weird, and you know, my wife's the opposite. But keep my headphones when I watch that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
I
think I just was like, I definitely loved the process of like shooting a film, taking our. I mean, I say taking our time. I mean, we only had a couple days to produce it and like film it and everything. But compared to some of the other stuff where I'm like just showing up and just like making up the footage and like kind of just shooting something like in real time, and this is the first time I've been on this location. I just liked the process of like thinking shot by shot, like how can we make this just incredible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's the plan. The plan is to make more films. We're gonna call it not Black Mirror, Black Window.
Black Window.
And the goal is to make more short films with Andre in them, and if Andre's willing. One final question before we wrap up. What's the one thing that you would like to do differently that you learned from this one?
Let me make sure we're still recording on the other camera. Say the last one.
I think it's cool that you want to do horror movies. I can't remember if I told you, but like I asked
got 10 minutes.
all my students what their favorite movies are, and all of them, almost like 95% of my students said horror movies are their favorite.
Really?
And so I think horror
It's
movies
young.
are like on the rise of being just what people like because they're different. Like I was talking to one of my other teachers, my coworkers, and he was like, horror movies are unique. They're different. They're not like all the other movies out there.
Yeah.
And there's still room for creativity in it.
Yep.
And so I just think it's cool that you want to pursue that because that's what seems like at least the generation coming up loves horror movies.
Well, I mean, we're all Christians,
Yeah.
and Christians tend to stay away from that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my position on it is, they are the purest form of good versus evil that you can have in a story.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it has to end well. It can be a cautionary tale.
Yeah.
But like, my goal is to show like, man, Christian movies usually suck. Or not Christian movies, but just like when Christians make movies, they're so shy about making something that's salty and edgy
Yeah.
and dark. And I just want to actually not be so afraid of doing scary stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a really good binary tale. I'm not sure what the good message is at the end of the unlocking. Most people didn't realize, but the first shot shows Jesus pulling Peter's hand out of the water. There's a painting in your parents' house.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's so funny. It's two hands.
Yeah.
And then also Jesus
think
says,
about
if your
that.
hand causes you to stumble, cut it off.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's a lot of themes here that are biblical. So yeah. So anyway, so what's the one thing that you want? Like, Josh, this is probably a question for you, primarily. What would you like to? I'm like shivering my balls off. So freaking cold.
My toes are like gone.
Yeah, let's wrap this up. What's one thing that you want to do differently
Um,
for the next one?
I mean, I think since shooting the unlocking, like I've like just done a lot more study on lighting, just like really dialing in your lighting, especially for stuff that is like night scenes. I mean, I think it's easier to light things when there's more light available. You know, you're controlling light, you're taking away light rather than adding it. I think when you're adding in light to a dark scene, like, I mean, we're out here in the woods and we've got a fire, but this is like not our only light source.
No.
We got like stuff off camera over here. We got some lights down here that are lighting us up, you know.
It's not real, guys.
You know, but like I think I realized after shooting the unlocking that like, you know, in shooting like film was that there's a lot more that I could learn to like really like make the next one even better.
I agree.
Lighting wise. To
That's
get it
my
like
focus
still
too.
looking like super natural, like very natural, but just, you know, just better. So I mean I'm still very happy with how it all turned out, but that's one thing that I've done a lot of reading on even since. So
Good.
What do you want to do differently, Thomas?
I want to learn how to direct conversations better. I want to be able to direct my grandmother. Like, I want to be able to direct anybody to have a good conversation on camera.